On a chilly evening 2 decades ago, John noticed a young woman huddled under a dimly lit street lamp, shivering from the cold. Moved by her plight, he offered her a warm meal and a place to stay, setting in motion a bond that would transcend time. Fast forward 20 years, an unexpected twist of fate places John's life in jeopardy. Just when hope seems lost, an unforeseen savior emerges. Who is this mysterious rescuer, and what connection do they share with John's past act of kindness? Stay tuned to uncover the remarkable story of compassion, destiny, and the profound impact of a single benevolent gesture. John had always believed in helping others, even when he didn't have much himself. That night, when he found Sarah on the streets, she was barely holding on, her face a mix of fear and exhaustion. She was hesitant to trust him, but something about his gentle voice and kind eyes convinced her to take a chance. Over time, Sarah found stability and built a new life, always remembering the stranger who had saved her when no one else cared. Years later, their paths crossed again in the most unexpected way. John, once strong and full of life, was now facing a dire situation, his health failing and his spirit dimming. Sarah, now thriving and unrecognizable from her past self, felt a pull to repay the kindness that had saved her all those years ago. But the stakes were higher than she ever imagined, and time was running out. As Sarah pieced together John's situation, she couldn't believe the man who once gave her a second chance was now struggling alone. He had lost his job after a sudden illness left him too weak to continue, and with no family to lean on, he had slipped through the cracks. Bills piled up, and his condition worsened. Sarah felt a flood of emotions: gratitude for what he had done for her, guilt for not staying in touch, and a fierce determination to help. But how? She wasn't sure if John would even recognize her or accept her help. At the same time, Sarah couldn't shake the thought that something more was at play. She started digging into his life, uncovering fragments of a story John had kept hidden, a painful past that shaped the man who had once saved her. As the pieces came together, Sarah realized saving him would require more than just financial support. It would mean confronting the secrets he had buried and the reasons he had always chosen to help others while refusing to ask for help himself. But would John let her in, or would he push her away, even in his darkest hour? Sarah decided to approach John cautiously, not wanting to overwhelm him. When she finally found him in a small, dimly lit apartment, he looked frail, his once bright eyes clouded with exhaustion. At first, John didn't recognize her. But as she spoke, reminding him of the cold night years ago and the kindness he had shown, his expression softened, though disbelief lingered. He insisted he didn't need help, brushing off her concerns with a weak smile, but Sarah could see the struggle in his every breath. Determined not to give up, Sarah began looking for ways to support him without overstepping. She reached out to old contacts, hoping to find medical aid and financial resources. But as she uncovered more about John's past, she realized the scars he carried weren't just physical. There was something he wasn't telling her, something that had left him broken long before his illness. Every step forward felt like hitting a wall, and just as Sarah thought she was making progress, John's condition took a sudden, alarming turn. Time was slipping away, and Sarah knew the moment to act was now, even if it meant risking everything. Late one evening, as Sarah sat by John's bedside, he finally opened up, his voice barely above a whisper. He spoke of a life filled with quiet sacrifices, years spent taking care of his younger siblings after their parents passed, dreams set aside to make sure they had a future. When they moved on and started their own families, John had kept to himself, finding solace in helping strangers like Sarah. But behind his kindness was loneliness, and now, with no one left to lean on, he had accepted his fate without complaint. Hearing his story only deepened Sarah's resolve. She knew she couldn't let him fade away unnoticed, not after all he had done for others. But just as she began organizing everything for his treatment, a fundraiser, medical consultations, even a plan to bring him into her home, John collapsed, his body unable to keep up any longer. As Sarah rode with him to the hospital, her heart pounded with fear and determination. She had come so far to repay the man who had saved her, but now it felt like everything hung by a thread. At the hospital, Sarah refused to leave John's side, holding his hand as doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize him. She stayed awake through the long night, replaying the moments they had shared and the second chance he had given her. By morning, John opened his eyes, weak but alive. The relief Sarah felt was overwhelming, and for the first time, John allowed himself to lean on someone else. Over the weeks that followed, Sarah became his constant support, ensuring he received the care he needed. With the funds she raised and the connections she reignited, John's health slowly began to improve. More importantly, the bond they shared grew stronger. Looking back, both realized how their lives had come full circle. John's simple act of kindness had sparked a chain of events neither could have foreseen, proving that compassion has the power to change lives, sometimes in ways we least expect.